Only and his guests are not responsible for any losses you may accrue for having weekends. Where the haters at? Y'all bitches still ain't showed up. And now, right, we got Hex, flawless uptime. People thought this was a joke. Now they're mad at the chart. It's lullaby music, really, right? It's hard to believe that something like this exists. I get it, but you just gotta come to terms with reality. It just exists. Nothing we can do. This is Wales Only. Glad you guys can make it out. I'm making some claims that are pretty outlandish, but I can back them up. Boom. End of story. There is no other crypto out there, so don't get it twisted. If you don't understand where you're parking your money, you're gonna pay the consequences for that, and that's just how the cookie crumbles. Boom. We're obliterating everybody, literally. There is nobody else that comes close to what Hex has done. Boom. Oh, it's about to get funky. Funkier than you could have ever imagined. You know, Richard Hart is a boss. Hex is literally the best thing on the planet. It's simple mathematics. Right? The reality is that I want to be rich as fuck. There's only one way to be rich as fuck. That's by sitting on your ass the longest. Yep. That's it. Yep. That's the secret. The guy well told you. Richard done told you. I done told you. Kareem done told you. Maddie done told you. Everybody done told you. Everybody done told you. These motherfuckers still acting like they don't know. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
100% safe. There's plenty of games left.
Valiant done told you. Yo, everybody said it. Man, hey, you know what it is, man? Everybody done told you. Y'all's deep. Everybody. My God. Hex Asians, bro. Everybody. Australians, man. Everybody gets me. Yo, when is it told you? Dollar told you. Everybody done told you. It's crazy. What up, fam? A happy Friday to all. Markets are breaking and cracking in legacy land. I've been dabbling in that side all day. It's been a good day. Haven't had this kind of volatility in years, so it's been a good day. Hopefully this keeps up. I'll definitely be retired in no time. No Hex required. But yeah, Hex is doing this thing. You had the FOMO event already happen. You kind of have it sitting on support. Let's look at it real quick, just to get that ball rolling. Because why not? And what up to everybody in the chat? Thank you guys for joining me on a Friday. It's you know, the party has begun more than likely. So we just gotta be patient, you know, because we're in a unique position. We're not doing what everybody else is doing, and that's important to understand. Because that's why we're not correlated, right? Now what that means for the unsuspecting novice is that while Hex might move in conjunction with the market from time to time because people are doing stuff because they see the market doing stuff, that doesn't mean that it's moving for the same reason, right? And that's kind of important to understand because this is what separates, you know, making the right decision versus you making the wrong decision potentially, depending on what it is you're trying to do, right? Because if you're just trying to sell, then it ultimately doesn't matter, right? But if you're actually not trying to sell and you're trying to stay in the game and you're trying to, make this generational wealth, then you got to understand these things so that you don't get spooked out of the market. Because for a long time, yeah, Hex was moving down just like everything else was moving down. But if you notice, Hex started going down first, right? We broke lower in October when everything else broke in November. And this is important to understand because that really makes a big difference. That makes a huge difference, right? Because this is what separates A from B, and this is why we can say Hex is decorrelated, right? Who remembers the boxes from back in the day? If you've been watching it for that long. So what do we have here? Yep, November, December. November 10th is basically the toppity top. That's the fade top, and this is the initial. Yeah. Change this back here right quick. Grazie. But point is, Hex broke lower first, and odds are it bottomed out first, right? So let's go back. Looks like everything kind of bottomed around the same couple days. But interestingly enough, and we'll go to the chart in a little bit, Hex bottomed out probably like 3 days before everything else. So even though it wasn't much of a divergence from that perspective, it still was a divergence. So, um, that's something, because if the market is moving with everything else, then that wouldn't happen. They would just bottom out and top out with everything else. So while we might be talking about the term specifically, you have to understand that these are just 2 points in time that I'm pointing out. Overall, right, the picture remains as such. And that's why we can still make these claims. So when you look at Hex now, it rolled over first versus the rest of the market, if I remember correctly. Or maybe the rest of the market rolled first. I don't really remember. 21st versus second. No, the rest of the market rolled first. How about that? So yeah, Hex didn't start rolling until that day. So that's also interesting to note, right? We're talking about correlations right now, and this is a perfect example of how things that we're dealing with are not correlated in the sense that people think that they are, right? Here we have the 1st of March, then the 2nd. However, Bitcoin topped out on the 21st of February. When you look at Hex, it started rolling over the 2nd of March. When was the 21st? The 21st was this day. So you still had a pump while Bitcoin was rolling over. And only after people realized that the rest of the market was taking a crap, only then did they start selling. Only then. This is important to understand because this is what separates the winners from the losers. Understanding the nuance in a statistical number, a statistical fact. If I'm telling you guys the math is saying Hex is decorrelated, well, shit, guess what? It's decorrelated. And if you're not looking at the chart to try to understand why, you just want to go off your emotions and whatever else, you're going to get left behind. And that's just going to cost your pocket. So, it ain't going to make a difference otherwise. But that's just to start talking about that, right? Because this is really a big thing. And it's an important thing that people need to understand. Because everybody's trying to maximize their coin count. No matter what, that's what people are ultimately trying to do. And that happens in the form of people trying to catch bottoms and sell tops. Right? And that's just simply all it is, right? And there's nothing wrong with that because there's people trying to maximize their wealth, right? They're trying to maximize your gains, and that's okay. But the important thing to understand is when you're playing the long game, time is what really maximizes your gains, right? I don't know exactly what this means, bro. I'm gonna need you to rephrase that question because it doesn't make any sense. Right now, Hex is sitting on support, and you can see it on the chart. Support is previous resistance, and that's what this 5.5 cent area is right here. So if it breaks lower, it looks like we have room to run down to 4 cents, and if it breaks that, you got 3.1 and a half, and then you finally have 2.8, 2.7. And if it breaks that, 2.5. Now the odds of it going all the way down there very slim because there was a lot of buying interest. Like buyers stepped in and after this point like crazy. So it would be interesting to see if it does actually break 3.8. But I think that that's a max downside for now. But market doesn't actually care what people think. Market gonna do what it's gonna do. So exercise patience and remember that Hex is not like everything else. And this is again why it's important to understand what you're talking about or what you're thinking about because your actions will be in line or out of line with that. It's important to remember that Hex moves up like it's in an elevator and goes down like it's going down the stairs. Whereas markets in the normal sense, typically go up in a staircase fashion and go down in an elevator fashion. So it's the complete opposite. Um, and that's very important to understand about Hex because right now Hex is going down. And that's why it's moving slowly. That's why if you're looking to buy, you have to be patient. You have to understand what it's doing. Because if you don't, well, you might buy too soon, or you might miss the bottom, or you might miss the turn, or whatever have you. Because everybody wasn't even paying attention to it when it bottomed on 28th. Surely did not. And then they were mad. They missed the 3.5x. I mean, what are you gonna do? It happens. But yeah. So outside of all of that, you guys see all the things that are happening in the geopolitical arena because this is primarily what's moving markets all around the world right now, specifically because so much information is coming out. Now, if you guys haven't been paying attention, the banking system in the US is on its knees, basically. And people are really catching on to that. So, what that means is stocks are getting sold. The market is being crazy erratic. In fact, we can just start looking at some charts here. This is the S&P 500, and what I'm doing is I got it broken down by time frame. I got 5 minutes in the upper left quadrant, 21 in the upper right, 55 minutes in the lower left, and a daily chart on the bottom right. And what it does is that it actually helps me identify when there's an actual trade. Because it's like I always try to explain to people, trading for the day is not day trading. Like you only make a trade where there's an opportunity to actually place a trade. That's not going to be every day. Excuse me. That's not going to be every single day. So you need to find a way to identify that. That comes in the form of time frame visuals. So you break it down. Try to see when you're catching a turn because you don't want to not be catching a turn because then you're just committing capital for no reason and missing opportunity elsewhere. That's how traders really trade. It's not, all this clickety clackety shit that people think. because that's what crypto people like to make people believe. But that's not reality. So you guys gotta let that shit go. You a day trader, and the way that you think is not a day trader. It's an opportunist in reality, because they're not taking risk every day if there's no risk to be taken. And that's how it's actually done. But anyways, as you guys can see, let's just expand this daily chart here. Well, hold on. Let me put the whole thing here. So the market right now is really being pressed with all the central bank activity. And by activity, I mean mostly headlines. And it's starting to slowly catch on to what the Fed has really been saying for all this time. And we've been aware because we've been talking about it for all this time. But the rest of the market, not so much. And this is important because this is how you get ahead of a move, right? I mean, we're already in crypto and in the best one. So we're covered. It's just important to understand, if you're out there playing around in the landmines, what you could step in, because that's what taking risk is about. When you're speculating, you don't ultimately know what the outcome is going to be. You're really just guessing. You're taking a risk based, you're making a risk based decision, basically. So with that in mind, you're taking a risk based position, right? Ultimately, it's supposed to be based on risk anyway. Um, so we've had the market kind of lollygagging for a while after the bottom, right? To the point that people really thought that that was the bottom. But no, because it's a bear market and people have to understand what the central bank's goal is. And I've been telling you guys for a while that their goal is ultimately to break everybody's pocket. And they're showing you guys that. I mean, the administration is doing what they're doing, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys ever catch the clips of the press secretary or anybody really that's a part of the administration. I mean, the lies that they spin, you guys got to realize these guys are actors, right? Because there's no other way to sit there with a straight face and say those bold-faced lies, such as the economy is doing well, people's income is up, all those crazy things that they say, that we just know are not true. Um, like we gotta, like they stand there and say that stuff, right? So you got to be cognizant of that. Because it's one of those things where they think that if they can say it long enough or enough times, it'll just become true. But the math just isn't working in that instance. It's just not. If you look at the inflation data, you can probably put that shit up right here in trading view. But anyways, I guess what I was gonna say is that I think we're just in the midst of a big prolonged bear market. Um, I don't think that we're at the point where this is just ending. If anything, I think we're forming a proverbial right shoulder here, even though there was really no left shoulder, right? But the market does what it wants. And what I'm seeing right now, just by looking at it on, very bare bones, nothing fancy, because I keep it simple for real. Let's just say this is what's really going on as of right now, right? Let's say that the trend is broken. Then what? Because what you guys got to understand about TA is it's an art. It's not a science. You could try to make it into a science if you like, and that's cool. But markets do and change, do what they want and change how they want all the time. So because you can't really account for that, you have to keep in mind that when the technical picture changes, you really have to change with it. And this is why day trading, i.e., trying to take risk every day, is so damn difficult. You have to really understand what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. Why am I short? I, for example, am literally short this market right now. Why am I short this market right now? I'm short this market right now because of all the things I've been talking about this morning. And I see an opportunity to take a short position based on what I see in the big picture combined with all this small picture stuff, coinciding with the order flow that I'm seeing in the market. So it's all these things that I'm taking into account, right? I'm adding them all up. 1 + 1 = 2 = 3 = 4 = 5 = 6. And they're giving me the confidence to take the risk that I see is worth taking relative to the capital that I have, right? And that's ultimately all you ever have to do. That's all this game is. And the key is doing it in repeat, because that's the hard thing, right? You kind of just think you could just do it one time and hit the home run and you're done. But no, you got to realize that that one trade is never going to be a home run. You got to hit that bad boy up all the time the right way. You got to get those singles, those doubles, those base hits. That's what counts. That's what's going to pay the bills in the long run. That's what's going to put you in that mansion or whatever nonsense you want. Right? At the end of the day, it's not pie in the sky. It's what can you really execute? What can you really keep? Right? Because hey, you see plenty of guys. They make that money, right? But can they keep it? That's the thing I've always told you guys. Can they keep it? I mean, look at this market. Right? Let's look at what these so-called day traders have to contend with. I mean, for the people that don't have the time and bandwidth to sit here and play with markets and charts, crypto is the best thing out there because they don't have to take into account the time that it takes to sit here and learn all the nuances of what you need to look at with technical analysis, right? Like it's a whole lot of detail, right? Because you have to understand this thing here is like physics, right? Why are we doing what we're doing? We're trying to make money from this market, and that isn't just going to be handed to you, whether it's crypto or otherwise. You have to understand the rules of the game that you're playing, right? And this is why it takes so long for people to find success. Some people, not all people, some people find success immediately when they come into the markets because they have the capacity to understand what it is they have to do or what is required for success, which is patience, understanding, grasping that this picture is consistently ambiguous and there are no absolutes, right? These are things that are very difficult for the average person to understand, right? It's not easy. So let's take a look at these measured moves so far. Looks like we got about 60, 80 points here. This looks probably more like 90. Yeah, about 100 points on that second one. And so far on this one, we're at, what is this, 78? Yeah. We're at about 80 points on this one. So it could very well be that this move is near done, which I don't think is the case. Or when you zoom out, we've broken a couple of areas of support, right? Which is pretty significant because the market was really gyrating around these levels. Like you could see it on the chart. It doesn't take a genius to see what's happening. It just takes some understanding to wrap your head around what it means, right? And that comes with time. It doesn't come from a class. It doesn't come from a chart. It comes from you looking at that chart and interpreting it. Pretty much. Now, I'm not trying to give anybody a class on how to speculate. I'm just really trying to help you guys wrap your head around how difficult this is and why HEX is so much better, right? I mean, let's take into account $1,000 placed right here. You know, that got you 58,000 hex. That means that for every cent move, you're making $588. All right. Every time hex moves a cent, that's $588. So if hex went from 2 cents to 7 cents, just multiply that by 7, subtract that 588, you just made $3,500, right? However, this is giving me a time frame. It took you 2 months to make that 7x, but you didn't have to do anything. You set it and forgot it. There's nothing wrong with that. To do what I'm doing, you have to be actively engaged, actively involved. You have to understand the ebb and flow of the market. You have to not get shaken out. Price does this to you. I mean, imagine being short, seeing price go down early in the morning, first thing, and then have it come all the way back, only to come all the way back down. Most people would have just tapped out right here, not understanding that this is just what markets do, because there's a gap here now. So the market has to contend with this gap at some point, and it was trying to this morning. But the market is so heavy, it was like, no, thank you. And it just pushed it lower. But again, that's just knowing TA. Everybody ain't going to know that. So some people would tap out. But again, this is why crypto is the solution. You don't got to sit here and bust your head over that nonsense if you don't need to. Because what happens if we get a rip like last year? I mean, them $1,000 is going to turn into 500 real quick. Let's go to the old charts. What's up with that? What is going on? What am I typing wrong? Anybody want to help? Or is that dead? I was just using it the other day. Or do I just gotta keep going and I don't know? What's going on here? If anybody got any insight on what's up with the Uniswap.vision site, let me know, because I'm trying to pull up the historical hex chart, and I was just using it the other day. Shit, let me check my work real quick. Hold on, guys. Anyways, I guess we'll figure that out at some other point in time. But just speaking from a very plain perspective, right? The difference between taking risk in this kind of market and doing what you got to do with your capital over here in crypto. You know, when you're looking at the political landscape and the financial landscape, they're very intertwined, right? And this is how crypto actually came to be. And it's very important that people keep that thought in mind, because that is essentially the driver of almost everything you're seeing happen nowadays. And with respect to all the regulatory nonsense that you're hearing coming from the headlines in regards to crypto, which is so irrelevant because you can't regulate something that you can't touch. So, you know, they can keep talking about it, just like China's been talking about it for the past 10 years, but or banning crypto for the past 10 years, right? Just to make it even more concrete. You know, it doesn't matter what politicians say or do. They have to contend with the fact that now the technology is such that they dropped the ball over the past 50 years, and now society is going to make them pay and make them inferior and make them irrelevant. because they had the opportunity to do the right thing. They decided not to. This is why crypto exists. Crypto is a literal hedge against bad governance. Because guess what? Money is whatever we collectively want it to be. If we really wanted money to be Doge, it would be Doge, and that would be the end of the conversation. It wouldn't matter whatever else is out there. You can have all the fucking hexes you want. Because if 8 billion people say that's the thing, then that's the thing. And that's the thing that people don't understand. Yeah, I typed in Uniswap.vision. That's exactly what was popping up. Let me just type it all out, I guess. Yeah, nah, it's still doing that shit. Fucking dicks. Whatever. Anyway, those are things that are very critical to understand, especially if you're new to the space. You know, why does this space even exist? Why do we even need other money? You know, who cares? You already get paid in dollars, right? And I'll show you why we got and why we care about crypto in a second. Give me just a minute to pull it up. As you guys know, I keep all the charts handy. All the charts. And now let's edit this graph for easy comprehension. Because the problem is so easy. And I think that's part of the problem at the same time. We know that our money doesn't do much for us. We know this. What we don't know is why or how we got to this place, right? Like we were at 100, right? Full value at one point at the beginning of this experiment. Now we're all the way at 3.4 cents of a dollar. 3% of 100%. This is what the dollar value is. It's worth right now. And this is why being a millionaire in today's age doesn't really mean much of anything anymore. It just doesn't. Right? I mean, the current administration is definitely trying to make it so that it doesn't mean anything. But here's something you should understand. Depending on where you live already, being a millionaire means nothing, because if you make a million net or gross, excuse me, you're giving it up, right? You're getting taken out for at least 35% of that, at least. That's just getting started. So where does it end? Right? It ends when people decide to wake up and educate themselves. Right? That's the only time, because until then, governments can continue to make up whatever they want, and some will continue to acquiesce and others will not. This is why we have crypto, because the monetary and financial abuse has been so blatant that there was no other way. You know, you got to realize technology is a can of worms. I've never really been confident with the notion that Bitcoin was a CIA experiment and all this and all that. And while it might have been, you know, they fucked up because they should have never let it happen. It's like the internet. They should have never let it happen, because what you did was you opened up Pandora's box. You didn't know what was going to come out of that. So, you know, that's kind of that one thing that you got to understand. Because now we're at the point where you can see the lies blatantly. I mean, it's at a point where normies are not even normies anymore. They're seeing clearly. And I mean, I'm seeing it. I like, you hear these people having these conversations. You know, they come back and fucking tell you, hey man, you know, you were fucking right. I don't know what the hell was going on, but you were right. I mean, this is where we're at now. When the normies are no longer normies, you know, you best believe government's about to fucking lose their shit. All whatever you thought was normal is about to become inverted. This is why you see them doing all the things that they've been doing, and they have zero intention of slowing down. Really, their whole objective is to blow the system up such that they can impose their CBDC. That's what it's all about. It's not about anything else for them. Because how else do they maintain that control, right? And this is ultimately what it's always been about. They failed with the Rona, right? They failed then. That's why they had to fall back from all the. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but in 2020, everybody was supposed to be on the real ID. I don't know if you guys even remember what that is, but it was basically this whole national database of people's IDs. That's what was supposed to happen in 2020. Did it happen? Nope. So it's all these little things that we got to come to terms with that these people keep trying. And what we got to do is ignore it. It's real simple. Whatever they think, whatever they want to do, it's always it's always and forever irrelevant. It shouldn't matter to us ever. Like, who the fuck are they? Why do we care? I don't give a rat's ass. I don't understand why others do. It don't matter. Like, so what? Why are you in crypto? You shouldn't be in crypto if you care what those people think, because they sure as hell don't want you in crypto. They want you using their dollars, man. They don't want you using the crypto. That defeats the purpose of their power. It takes away their whole control. So these are the things you got to kind of keep in mind. Like, that's why crypto is a negative for them, right? This is why it's always banning it or trying to find some way to legislate it that they really can't. I mean, this is really it right here. It's all false claims. All you have to do is ignore everything. I mean, look at what they did with Rona. This is literally all they did. They just spoke it forward, never ever confirmed or verified or proved anything. Never, ever. And that was just the end of it. Everybody just went with it. I mean, this is what they do in every aspect of society for us. Literally what they do. Every single time. Doesn't matter what it is. They lie and they just keep lying. Yeah, the interesting thing about mainstream media is that they're on the ropes. No, like if you look at the Nielsen figures, like they're just nobody cares, bro. Like I don't know a single person that's still watching that shit. Basically, yeah. And the reason I say it's still a good strategy is because we can't fathom if they're capable of bringing a boat full of motherfuckers to the coast, east and west, south, or even through the fucking northern border, because Canada is fucking like Venezuela. Be honest. You don't know what they're liable to doing just to get people to do what they want, because it's about control. It's not about anything else, and their objective is for us to be under total control. Right? I mean, they're trying to inject fucking chickens with fucking fake vaccines. They're trying to poison the food supply, whichever way they can, and they're not shy about it. They're out here blowing up everything, literally causing destruction and mayhem every which way possible. Specifically in the states that they know they want Trump, that it's obvious, and it's like, okay, no worries. What happens if you live in one of those states and you don't have your own shit? And now they can't even get goods and services in there. Then what? You screwed, man. So yeah, you kind of, some city folk are not gonna have a way out. They're just gonna be stuck, and that's when it's gonna really be nasty. So you guys are weaponized because that's what it's gonna take. It's gonna take that. In New York, it's already crazy. It's the '90s again over here. So if you come visit, be mindful of that, because it's only gonna get worse. It's not gonna get better anytime soon because it's only 2023. And We still got at least a whole another year of this madness, right? Because I think, yeah, at least a whole another year and some change. Because the election cycle doesn't even begin until next year. So, it's going to be a long 23 and 24 because their cycle is only going to get amped up. It's not going to get toned down because they're on the ropes. They're really on the ropes. Um, they're not. They don't really have recourse in any aspect with respect to anything, right? I mean, look at their main tool is in your face right now, right? That dollar, that's their main tool. Um, and that's how well it's doing. So, you know, being in crypto is the right move, right? So you're already set there, but it's about understanding what you have on the other side. Because that's really important because you got to understand how important crypto is. And if you're going to be participating in this market, all you have to do is set it and forget it. You don't need to be speculating. This is not the speculative market. It's only speculative in the sense that if you find various cryptos, not the fake ones, the real ones, then you have to determine which one you think is the most viable long term. Because this is like the internet, 30 years ago. Um, we had Bitcoin, which was AOL or Netscape, whatever, right? And now we're like the Amazon, Google, if you will, because Hex covers a lot of aspects of monetary life. And if you haven't read my latest Substack, I recommend that you do. Um, hold on a second, guys. All right, folks. So yeah, the opportunity lies in really understanding the current geopolitical landscape, and geopolitics is really a combination of reality, lies, slander, and you, the person trying to make sense of it all, you have to filter through everything. You have to filter through everything and make sense of it. Thanks for the super chat, Steven. Um, Thanks for everything, Wells. Predictions on the fallout of SIVB. Is it accelerating? Well, I think it's going to. I think we're just beginning to see. Uh, Give me a second. Speaking of SIVB, that's exactly yeah, shit's going on at work related to that too. So yeah, it's definitely gonna have an impact market wide in many aspects. Because people's invested in it or they have invested investments in other people, right? So it's gonna impact. This is what contagion is, right? And the problem is ultimately is that in our monetary system, contagion is always going to be the end result of any issue that arises. And the main reason for that is because we don't have a true money system. We have a currency system. So because we have a currency system, we have a debt system. So because we have a debt system, we have credits and debits, which is the same thing as saying, you know, assets and liabilities. So what that means is is that no balance is ever resolved down to zero. There's always a negative balance somewhere. So, if there's always a negative balance somewhere, what does that tell you if problems arise? This is what happened in all of 2022. 2022 was really just crypto's year of exposure. 2023 is going to be Wall Street's year of exposure. So you can mark this day as the day that it was called, I guess, if you want. But I've been saying it for 2 years. It's coming. This is just what's going to happen. So if you think about what's occurred first, first it wasn't even this SIVB. It was some other bank. I can't even remember the name of it now. But this is all just a domino effect. There's going to be some other bank after this one. There's going to be some other bank after that, and then something else after that. And then it's just the nature of the beast. This is why I try to teach you guys the things that I teach you. Um, there's so much opportunity out here if you know how to look at the playing field. And even myself, I closed myself off to a lot of opportunity that I could exploit because I didn't want to. And now I'm of the frame of mind that why would I do that? But that's what I did. But wake up. So I urge you guys to sit down and make your intention serious, right? Because we all really don't want to be working. We don't want to be doing what we don't want to do. We want to be giving our family and friends what they deserve and what we think they deserve. So the best way and the easiest way to do that is by taking your endeavor seriously and executing accordingly. Um, and of course it's easier said than done, but we must endeavor, right? We can only achieve by trying. And if we can't do, we must try and try again, because if this is what we're trying to do, we got to do it. Otherwise, why are you even trying? Right? And it's one of those conundrums. It becomes a paradox of sorts. But try to understand how this monetary system works. It's really like it's like a seam, right? That's sewed up. Everything is connected. Once you start unraveling that seam in one place, that's it. It's game over. Something is going to get exposed somewhere, and 2022 is just the beginning. So let me know if you got any other questions, brother. Appreciate the 20. Got you. Appreciate you, brother. I'll do that when I'm not on on live though. I'd rather take care of that on some other setup. Um so yeah, if you guys got questions, drop it. I'll answer them for sure. Is that right? I'm not familiar with the guy. Guess I'll have to check him out. And speaking of check him out, let me check out my shite. Let's go, motherfucker. Yeah. And this is what it's about, guys. Just taking advantage of opportunity. That's what it's about. It's not about getting rich quick. Cause I spent 10 years, well, not really, but I spent a lot of time thinking that's how it was gonna be because of how I started trading. But that was the error in my mind. I got swept up in the getting rich quick because that's what happened to me off the bat. I made my money quick initially, um, but once the market slowed down and there was no more quick money, like today is quick money day, so I'm killing it. It's a beautiful day for me, but that's not every day, and I have to understand that, and I have to make sure I never forget that, because when I do, I go through this fucking death spell. It's bad, and I gotta keep that in mind, and that's what it's about. Always making sure you're making the right decisions, always making sure that you're not playing yourself, pretty much, because do that. And this is why we got to understand the big picture. Today you have the administration threatening basically all of us with a major tax increase to the tune of 5.5 trillion in aggregate. That's what it's expected to generate, right? Now how is that positive? Don't know. Um, I have no idea. That's one of those things that people have to learn to wrap their heads around. Um, nice. Yeah, somebody showed me something too about something similar. Some of these LPs are making some change out there, but you got to understand what you're doing when you're LPing. So be advised. Be advised. Be advised. I just personally think it's more efficient to take risk in legacy financial markets than it is in crypto because crypto is very costly, and if you don't hit that lick, it's gonna cost you a lick. So that's why I don't recommend it. I recommend the legacy game. I just think it's just a better risk reward for the novice, for whoever. Just don't be out here pissing in the wind in crypto because if you put your money in the wrong slot, you're not gonna get it back. You know what I mean? And that's what I want people to avoid. I want people to not, get caught up uh putting their money in a bad slot machine. Especially when you got the easiest thing out, which is Hex. I mean, it don't get any easier. So you gotta be aware of that. You gotta be aware of that. You gotta be thinking about yourself. Less friction is the best, especially when it comes to money. Least less is more always. So keep that into account. Take that into account because that's powerful. Very very powerful. Give me a second, guys. I'm trying to set up this order here. Um, but yeah, my idea has always been to help people take themselves seriously in a financial sense. I don't want to be anybody's guru or nothing like that. Uh, you gotta learn how to make your own decisions because no guru is gonna be there to back you up. You gotta be ready to back yourself up ultimately. So that's what you just gotta be willing to do because all these online people aren't always gonna be there to help you when you need it. So you gotta really honestly just be ready to do it yourself. So why even play around? Just start there now. You know what I mean? And that's been my whole thing. Because when I first started learning, it's cool, it's easy, it's fun. But if you're not doing exactly what they're telling you, how they're telling you, you really don't know what you're doing. And you really don't know what you're doing. So that's the crazy thing. So uh, you know, why would you take that risk with your money? You know what I mean? Like take risks that make sense so you can make some return. You want to ring the register, not keep giving money to it. You know what I mean? Like I spent a long time doing that because I was just being stubborn. And a lot of traders do that. They want to do things their way, not respect the market and whatever. But you gotta respect the market. The market speaks to you, just like the universe speaks to you. And the sooner you start listening, man, the sooner you start making mad money. I mean, it's really that simple. There are people, I know people that literally do one strategy and nothing else. Nothing else. And they're filthy. I mean, they make money like it's nothing. And they're not crying because it's only just one strategy. They're happy they're making their money. You got to understand your position and play it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's so many ways to make money. You can't pretend to think that you can only really do one. There's many ways, and you'll find them over time, but you got to find the ones that make sense for you. And that's the hard part. Because you got to take notes and get yourself seriously, really. And that's hard for us to do because, you just really don't You think you can just do some? Ooh. So I'm seeing the headline drop about how Kramer was. You guys know Jim Kramer from CNBC. How he was telling people to buy that Silicon Valley Bank or whatever last month. So he's gonna be feeling some pain for the next few days. But people gotta understand that's what they pay the guy for. I remember when I was young and coming up in the game, and I figured out what financial media was. I used to hate those people. Like I used to have a fervent hate for them because I understood that they were lying and they were misleading people. But what I didn't understand that it was part of a bigger picture. At the time, I did not understand that the media was complicit, like it is. You know, like it's clearly a hat in hand scenario, media, government, yada yada. Like I didn't understand that. Anyways, long story short, that's just what it is. People are paid to say things a certain way on TV, and that's why we get what we get. People misleading people, and that's why YouTube is such a great thing. Now you got people that can provide you with valuable information and not, trash that is being sold to you as valuable information, but it's not, right? Because that's easy. Anybody can do that. So time is what makes the difference there, right? Because you can't, like, that's why Richard Hart is the boss, right? Like the dude's been infinitely consistent since he's been on YouTube. That's why nobody can say anything negative about him unless it's a lie. That's right. That's the only time. So, and this is coming from a person that trades and he constantly shits on it. But it's what I do, so it is what it is. He doesn't do it, or maybe he doesn't like the implications of it. That's what I don't like. I don't like the implications of trading. That's why I don't recommend it. I don't talk about it. I don't stream about it. For what? Not many people gonna get wrecked trying to do whatever it is I'm doing, not understanding that they don't got nothing to do with me. You see, because that's the issue. That's the precise issue with these markets. It's about you, not about the person that you're watching, not about the person that is making the money. It's never about that person. It's always about you. How are you going to extract the value from the market? Not that individual that's extracting the value. He already knows how to do it. How are you going to do it? That's the pressing question. That's what you want to figure out because ultimately that is what's going to get you paid, not anything else, right? So that's what you got to keep in mind, folks. That's what pays the bills, not this notion of I don't know. It gets so frustrating. Like, I have a goal, right? Like when you're taking risk of a speculative sort, like what I'm doing right now. What am I looking for? I'm looking for a specific time of day to determine when the market's done trending and the direction is going to trend. And then I'm out. That's typically towards the end of the day. It's only 2 o'clock right now, Eastern Standard. So if it breaks this level, I'm out. If it doesn't, then I'm in. I'm just staying in. And that's just this one specific scenario. But point is, you got to know what you're doing and you got to just do it. You can't be there thinking about it. You got to just do it. So, don't be shy. Pull that ripcord when it's time to pull that ripcord. And I think it's time for me to pull that ripcord. So let me do that. Give me a second, guys. I just need to close out some orders here. But yeah, it's understanding that you gotta have a goal, have your targets, and just execute. Don't overthink it. When you overthink things, that's typically when things go sideways. When you already had it plotted it out anyway, so why press it? Just take it and run. There's nothing wrong with that, because again, it's about ringing the register, right? And that's all we can really focus on. If we're not ringing the register, then what are we doing? Right? We're not really doing much of anything. We're just playing ourselves and giving money away to market makers and other people. And that's not success, right? So you gotta do better than that. And that comes in the form of you taking yourself seriously. Again, and that's just ultimately what it boils down to. So, don't be shy. Put your best foot forward. And almost forgot to close this shit. Um, take some love, respect yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, yeah, I got some other shit, so I'm good. Let me just catch this up. All right. Book is looking good. Thank you guys for your patience while I cleared out my book there right quick. So, yeah, don't be shy. You got to take care of yourself. Everybody else be damned. Because at the end of the day, I mean, look at these rich people, right? These entertainers, athletes, whatever have you. They go out of their way to involve their friends, family, if possible, if they're that kind of person. Other than that, they're hiring advisors and whatnot to help them do whatever they got to do. And sometimes those folks, even though they made millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, they're broke at the end of their ride. How does that happen? That happens because they're not knowledgeable at all in their financial, like they don't understand the financial situation in any way. Imagine being a millionaire and then not being a millionaire after you were a millionaire. I mean, that cannot be fun. That cannot be fun. You know, it can't be. So, keep that in mind. Respect yourself, please. Take into account all the crazy things I say because while they might be crazy, they're for your benefit. Excuse me. Yeah, ring that register. When you're out there speculating and taking risks, you can't be afraid to ring that register. For a long time, I had this problem where because I was looking to make a big trade always, even though I knew it wasn't possible, I would not cash out on winning trades. I would just like let it sit there with the expectation that my big picture view would pan out, but yet my risk wasn't aligned with that big picture. How does that work? It doesn't. You know what I mean? Like you got to figure it out. So that's ultimately what trading is all about. And there's not much else you can do. That's all it is. So if you guys got any questions, now would be the time to drop them in there. Otherwise, I'm gonna just wrap it up. It's already been an hour. I just really wanted to update you guys on, excuse me, everything that's going on in the macro environment, how it's looking, and how it's gonna probably shape up looking forward. And it's all tied to politics, right? So it's all geopolitical. This is why I look at macro specifically. Um, And it's going to impact HEX, of course, because if people in HEX are going to be reacting to external markets and so, well, shit, that's what they're going to do. But at the same time, you got to understand what that means. That's creating an opportunity for you, the person that understands that this is only a short-term, situation. Because if these banks do go bust, I mean, if you say anything about it, I've been kind of clear. They're trying to make the financial system go bust. So if that happens, odds are we hyperinflate and CBDCs replace fiat because their whole objective is to get cash out the way. I don't know how feasible that is, right? Given how our system is set up, it's not feasible at all. Just so you know, it's literally not. However, that doesn't mean that they won't do it because they don't give a fuck. It happened in India just like that. They just banned cash overnight, and that was the end of it. I don't know what the fuck happened, but I'm pretty sure the people that don't live in cities and don't have access to electronics and banks and stuff like that, they just not dealing with it. They just don't interact with the shit. So now you have a bifurcated system in India, one where you have people that do use the electronic whatever, and then those that just aren't a part of that system. Period. Go figure. And I don't see how that can't happen here, because again, they're causing has environmentally hazardous accidents nationwide. They're trying to vaccinate or poison our food supply. They're trying to do whatever they can do to achieve their goals. They don't have any qualms in doing whatever they got to do. So don't think that anything is not possible, right? Because it is. So let's see what question we got here. No questions. Okay. Which bank is next? Well, Silvergate's already $2. Yeah. Bank Silicon Valley Bank is done. It's interesting you mentioned B of A, Wells Fargo, and Citi. Those banks should have been done in 2009, but yet they persist. So I'm not so sure um, how this is gonna continue to expand in terms of what could be an issue moving forward and what might not be. However, let's just look at some sectors here. KRE is regional financial or regional banking ETF. I think this is international or insurance ETF, and I think this is just a regular bank ETF. Put this on log. Put this down here. Get rid of this. Now these are ETFs, so ETFs are a relatively new thing. I'm just using it to show you guys what the aggregate picture looks like for the financial system. So right now we're looking at the S&P 500 bank ETF from Spider. You can just look that up, type that in, and it'll pop right up who makes it and all of that. Now, what I want you guys to know is that we have negative divergence here. We have negative momentum already. RSI, MACD, both negative divergence on top of that. So, this was the Rona low. This was the Great Financial Crisis low. Now, we've already breached previous highs, 1 and 2, right? This 51 area and this 45 area. Getting awfully close to this 37, 34, 27 area. Now, while it doesn't sound like it's far away, we've only moved $20 from the high to where we are now, and that took, let's see how long that took. a couple months. So that's happened the whole beginning of the year. Holy crap. So while everything else is running up, banks are getting stuffed. Good to know. I hadn't really looked at it like that. So here we got the same setup for insurance companies. Um, Positive up here. So these are just getting started over here. Negative divergence here, MACD, and negative divergence in the RSI. So negative picture there. So they're going to probably crack here shortly. Regional banks already taking the brunt of the hit. They're just first to get it. That's always how it pans out. This is why I have this one here, KRE, in this sector batch here. And I'm going to guesstimate that this has also been all the beginning of the year. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm 21 days. Sorry, this is last year. 427 days. So that's the whole past year. So this just hasn't stopped. Okay, this is just a continuation. My bust. I didn't get date on that one. Give me a second, guys. This was 2021 also. 2022. So this is just a continuation of last year, basically. Because you had a lot of chop last year, and that's just a continuation. We're just getting a continuation move now. Holy crap. And everybody thought the bottom was in. This is funny. So, from a market perspective, by market, I mean legacy market, we're just getting started. So, there's honestly no telling how bad it's going to get. If you look at gold, it's on a tear. Now, this is 21 days. Let me get you a smaller point of view so you can see what I mean by listening to there. So, over the past 3 days, this is what each bar is 3 days. So this is what the market has been doing over the past few days. Just straight up. And it's really finding support here, which, as you guys see, was previous resistance at 168 bucks. This is just the ETF. If you look at the futures, it's going to be the same deal because they pretty much track it. Even if it's not 1-to-1, it's pretty close. So if we break it down to a daily picture, you'll see just stopped right here, 168. And it just reversed. And it had done that before, but now we're just breaking out higher. Because again, it's just going to respect that previous resistance area, and we're just going to traverse higher now. Because now everything, the technical setup is there, the market tone is there, the geopolitics is there for a move higher. I mean, once you have all those three things set up, market tone, the technical setup, and sentiment, which comes from headlines and shit like that, that's what really outlines a perfect trade. This is one of the main things that made me so bullish on Hex that I just could not do a stream back in the day because I understood how big it was going to be because of all the hate and all the gatekeeping and all that shit. Even though I didn't really get how big it was, like once I started catching on, it was really obvious. And this is Euro stocks right here, the ETF for that. I think this might be emerging markets. So emerging markets never really even got up. I mean, it's just been straight down for the past year. Put it on a weekly basis. What are we looking at? This was Rona. So emerging markets are already under their Rona low, and they never got above Rona. So, yeah. So what's the implication here? Why do I care? Well, if you think about equity markets, especially in the US, that's typically, developed companies and stuff like that. Emerging markets, you're going to pretty much have all new businesses, new this, new that, blah, blah, blah. It's always going to be new stuff. So, keeping that in mind, the idea is that that's where your high ROI returns are going to come from. That's why you had to move from 116 all the way down to 80 bucks in such a short period of time. I mean, for a stock, this is a huge move, or for an equity instrument, this is a huge move, right? This is 35% and what is this? 660 days, right? But this is, again, emerging market bonds on top of that. So this isn't even equity. This is a fixed income equity derivative. So all these things tie into the banking picture, right? This is why I'm still talking about all this crap. Junk bonds, let's see what they're doing. Oh God, horrible. So this is again another one. High yield bonds, let's see what they're doing. Same setup. So all this is really bad. Let's see, high yield bank loans. This is what this is, HYBL. Let's get a smaller picture. I guess 3 days is too much, or 5 days is too much. So same deal, straight down. And again, this is an aggregate representation of what these respective markets are doing, right? But the reason I'm highlighting them individually is because they all make up the banking picture, right? Because when we start talking about right now, Silicon Valley, Silvergate, those are specialty banks, right? Those are specialty banks. That's why KRE is getting smoked first. Regional, local. Silvergate is not a BOA. It's not a city. It's not a JP Morgan. It's not Wells Fargo City. You know, they don't have branches, TD, all over the place. It's just not the same. And that's why this regional bank index is getting smoked. Now, next is going to be the banking ETF, right? That one's going to be the next one to be smoked. And I mean, as you guys look at it, it's already kind of getting smoked, but not in the same degree. It's just not the same. So once insurance kind of keels over, which it kind of has, but just not really, everything else is going to start feeling the pain, because everything here rolls up into all these three: the junk bonds, the high yield, this emerging market, all this stuff. Because these are the entities and the institutions that are out here producing this stuff and pushing it out there. iShares is JP Morgan product, isn't it? Let me double check that. Pretty sure it is. Let's double check. Maybe I'm wrong. I know State Street does spider stuff. BlackRock. Okay, BlackRock. But again, I'm actually short BlackRock right now, because they're not looking too hot. Oh, I guess I should have never closed my puts, but whatever. I got these open still. But if you look at these, straight down for the past year, right? And if you look at this on an 8-day basis, this bad boy is just getting started, which is the main reason I got short. This is just getting started. So this, right, is going to tie itself out into the global economy. And the thing you got to understand about BlackRock is that they're the biggest asset manager on the planet. They manage like $3 trillion. Oh no, I'm lying. 10 trillion. So it's not a cent, that they manage. They manage a mighty amount of money. So the impact that they're going to have on the market is going to be pretty significant. Nothing to scoff at. And this is why we got to pay attention to what's going on. Pretty much market wide, right? And it's going to carry over. I'm short Coinbase because it's crypto and considered an exchange. It's like in between Silvergate and a Blackstone and what and like a regular bank, because people don't really understand it. People on Wall Street don't know the difference between a freaking Schwab and a freaking, what is the name of this thing again? Coinbase. They don't know the difference. They're just gonna sell it. So, whatever. And these, this is what's going on now. When you're talking about something like Hex, right? It's removed from that frame of thought. People have to literally react. People have to literally be willing to sell. And that's really the difference between what a stock is doing, what another crypto like Bitcoin or Ethereum is doing, and what Hex is doing. Hex requires a specific intent. The rest of the market is just moving because that's what the rest of the market is moving. So, let's look at these banks actually before we wrap up. Bank of America. Glad I didn't short this motherfucker. Look like they're trying to bid it right now. Maybe it's just short covering. It could easily be just short covering because this is a pretty significant move for this stock because they have really high volume for one. Let's take a look at what the volume figures are looking like. Yeah, we're talking about six figures just in a 89-minute period. I mean, that's huge for a stock. Let's look at big lots. Yeah, 1,000, right? Like you see, it's 300x less, 200x less. Like it's just not comparable. Banks, the financials are pretty liquid, um, and that's basically what you're seeing. Mm. I think they're catching a nice little short covering bid at the moment. Let's see here. 10%. 10% in a week, and is that in a week? Yeah, it's a pretty good move. So you better believe people are going to be covering shorts because it's just how they move, and for equities that's huge, especially for a bank. It's just a lot of money right there. Let's see what this Bank of America's done. Yeah, 20%. So that's huge too. So you got to expect some short covering every 10%, 5% or so. But you got to understand that. Like you get good at TA by looking at the charts and understanding what people decide to do at certain points in time as markets move. It's not by reading a book or anything like that. So, but again, coming back to this, when you coming out here looking at the big picture, right, you can see that these banks are primed to kind of go lower. Right, this would be a left hand shoulder. This would be like a right sided shoulder. This is Bank of America stock. Let me get rid of this. I was just playing around ones. I don't really do that. But if you look at this, right, you got like another shoulder building here. Let me put a box. Maybe that makes it easier. There we go. And basically, what I would want to see is a break of this support level right here for Bank of America, um, to confirm that this is going to really be the move that flushes it out, right? Because you got some support down here, right? Like that's what you're seeing here. You got some support here, so you want to see price break that. But this is 5 days per candle, so but if it breaks lower, right, that's just confirming our suspicion that this is just a continuation of this move. City, same deal, more than likely. Yep. And it's doing worse than the other ones. Its high was all the way back in 2020 and it never recovered. So whatever there. Let's see if I got any of the banks here. Goldman. Let's see what Goldman looks like. Yep. Hasn't recovered since 2021 either. And it looks like it's just gonna head lower also. So yeah. JP Morgan. I don't think I have any more banks after that. I don't see anything. PNC, okay. Same deal. Has not recovered highs and it's losing its momentum right now. PNC, another bank. This is more a mix of financial and regional. Almost looks just like Bank of America. Forming that, but it's lost the support here. So this might be a leader lower. A leader or a leader on the move lower. Here's Silvergate. I mean, let me get rid of this Bollinger Bands. This thing was $240 at the beginning of 2022. So, yeah. Silicon Valley Bank, $750 at the beginning of 2022. I think it's suspended. I don't think it's trading today. Is this shit? I don't see it moving. I'm pretty sure it's suspended. I'll be getting short that thing as soon as I can because it's clearly going to go to zero. So that's just an easy trade. It's a no-brainer. Um, let's see. Now, U.S. Bank. See what this looks like. Yep, fugly as well. Probably can drop the Bollinger Bands on this bad boy though. Yeah. So again, if it loses this, these October lows are key for pretty much all markets. Is this a bank? I don't think so. Walgreens and not. The fuck is this? Let's see how the hotels are doing. Warner Brothers. Hotels losing momentum as well, huh? Maybe I should be looking to get short these resorts. See if see if we can find some flow. I do these stock trades a little differently. I don't just use charts. I try to see if there's some activity behind it. The usual options flow is what it's called. So you see, markets are reversing again. Um, so what that means to me is that I might want to look at repositioning my shorts for a somewhat longer term move. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got. I keep rambling on about how you can look at stuff in markets, so we'll just wrap it up here. Thank you guys for joining. Actually, hold on. I didn't check to see if there was any other questions. So let me see here. There you go, guys. Be sure not to miss that. Guy is good. Let's see. Need some more detail. Not really clear the question, brother. All right, let's see. I get your question now. I get you. Yeah. So the hard thing for people to get about that stuff is that it all has to be local. There is no way around it not being local. Like you got to get people around the way to understand what's going on. Because if that's not there, then not much of else ultimately matters. Unfortunately, uh, that's just the nature of the beast. Sadly, so that's really step one is finding people that you can actually liaise with. Team up with, and that actually understand what the hell's going on. Because if not, it's just you still. You know, not not really much you can do outside of that. So that's why you got to partner up with people in your local area. Because if you're in the city, it's even more difficult because nobody even likes talking in cities and stuff like that. So you just got to figure out because it's all with respect to where you live. YouTube that. I mean, um, yeah, you're right. They got a whole lot of them out there. Yeah, what's interesting is that some people just don't know that they can do it another way. That's what's interesting. You know, people really forget that dollar amount in people's pocket does not equate to financial knowledge of any type. Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much how it went down the financial crisis as well in 2008. They picked the winners and losers, brother. They are picked. Yeah, yeah. All those financials are definitely a target, right? Um, because they're not really doing anything. They're just handing out money to people from other people. That's ultimately what they're doing. So that typically leads to bad results, right? And this is what we see time and time again when we look at the big picture and whatnot. So, it's important to understand and the moving pieces and stuff like that. All right, let's see. Nice. Good stuff, brother. Oh, also interest rates. We're at a point in the interest rate situation where banks do start failing, and yeah, I forgot to mention that. It's kind of important. So I've talked about this ad nauseum, and we'll make the point once more. Every time these spreads reach this area, things essentially snap. And we're down here again. So things are going to start snapping, folks. So ultimately how it works. Because, like I said, this is when it's too hot. This is when it's too cold. Right now, too cold. So things are going to snap. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And yeah, I mean, when you look across the spread, or across the board of the spreads, all the distinct spreads are showing you the same exact picture. In fact, 10 minus 2s is the worst one because we're in territory we've never been. So, not sure what to make of it, right? I guess we'll all learn together. But everything else is in, extreme territory. And that's just how the cookie crumbles, guys. So, keep your eyes out, keep your ears open. And yeah, that's how it goes, See if there's any questions, final questions or not. If not, that'll be that. All right, that's pretty much all I got, guys. Make sure you understand why this is the place to be. Because, in reality, you don't need to be sold on anything. It's a matter of you understanding what and why. And once you get to that point, it's pretty much a wrap. There's nobody that can really sell you on anything. And that's kind of the end result you want for your understanding of HEX and why you want to be involved in crypto and stuff like that. So make sure you are learning what real crypto is and have an outstanding Friday. Peace. Right? The reality is that I want to be rich as fuck. There's only one way to be rich as fuck. That's by sitting on your ass the longest. Yep. That's it. Yep. That's the secret. The God well told you. Richard done told you. I done told you. Kareem done told you. Maddie done told you. Everybody done told you. Everybody done told you. Shit, motherfuckers still acting like they don't know. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
100% safe. There's plenty of games left.
Valiant done told you. Yo, everybody said it. Man, hey, you know what it is, man? Everybody done told you. Y'all deep. Everybody.